Hi everybody, Al Bernstein here with another one of our quick hits videos, and on this one we're going to talk about the fight this weekend on Saturday, July 18th in El Paso, Texas, in which Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. returns to the ring to take on Marcos Reyes. This fight has all kinds of drama associated with it. It features Chavez Jr. coming back only 2 months after his loss to Andre Fonfara. That's the quickest he has come back in a fight since 2009. Just to revisit what happened to Chavez Jr. in his last fight, it was against true 175-pounder Andre Fonfara. Chavez inexplicably, in my mind, moved up to the light heavyweight division to take on a real 175-pounder, and not just any old 175-pounder, but a man who had fought so well in his recent fights and had been so excellent against the top-level competition in the 175-pound division. The result was not very good. Chavez, though he had his moments offensively in the fight, was outgunned, and not only did Fonfara show his power and his and use his strength, technically, he was the better fighter that night. Chavez Jr. would drop to the canvas during the course of this fight and ultimately would quit on his stool. There was much controversy attached to that, in which he was trying to suggest that others had stopped the fight on his behalf. And there was many fans of Chavez Jr. who were rankled at what took place in that fight. It was, in fact, a disastrous evening for Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Now, in that fight, Joe Goosen was his trainer. Of course, Chavez Jr. has changed trainers more times than Madonna has changed boyfriends in her life. And so there was yet another change. Well, now there is another change. Joe Goosen is not his trainer now, and the man who has taken over is another well-known trainer, Robert Garcia, who you see pictured here with Chavez Jr. and his dad, Julio Cesar Chavez, the great Mexican boxing legend. During the course of this training camp, there have been many comments made about how much better the camp is going, how much Garcia is in control, and that's really what Chavez Jr. needed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, to quote Yul Brynner. I'm seldom this direct in my comments about anything, but as Seinfeld said, yada, 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 because we've heard all that before. We heard it in every training camp he's ever had. And sometimes we see some better results from Chavez Jr., sometimes we don't. We'll know this Saturday whether, in fact, he has put an effort into training or not. The one thing I will not go along with or will not be silent on is this concept that somehow the last training camp wasn't organized or directed, or Joe Goosen didn't take charge. Joe Goosen is a terrific trainer. Freddie Roach is a terrific trainer who formerly trained Chavez Jr. Robert Garcia is a terrific trainer. All three of them are very good. But if your fighter doesn't want to buy in and doesn't want to work hard enough to get the job done, then even if you're Houdini, you won't be able to pull off the magic trick of getting them in shape and getting them ready to fight. We'll see. The burden of proof is clearly on Chavez Jr. Now, what about the man he's fighting, Marcos Reyes, who's a 27-year-old from Mexico, who is 33-2, has fought virtually all of his career, first at 154 pounds, then at 160 pounds. Why is that important? Because this fight's up at 168, where he has only fought one time, Reyes, and Chavez Jr., of course, has been up at around that weight quite a bit in recent times, and in fact has even had a hard time making 168 pounds on several occasions. certainly has long since given up on making 160 pounds. Let's take a look at the tail of the tape, and you'll see some of the numbers about these fighters. I mentioned that Reyes, 27, a little younger than Chavez Jr., and the height is essentially similar. Mentioned the weight limit, and in the number of fights that Chavez Jr. has had, we know that only in recent times, the last couple of years, has he stepped up the level of opposition, but he has faced a good level of opposition for the most part. Marcos Reyes believes he can win this fight. And that belief, I think, for him is going to be what will fuel him. Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., I mentioned, fighting for only the first time since 2009 with this short amount of time in between. Is that good for him, or is that bad for him? Now, of course, the long layoffs he's had haven't been good for him, but this is a very short window, especially for him. Will he be ready after taking a pounding from Andre Fonfara to be dominant in this fight? You can tell what their thinking is. They're fighting a fighter who's probably going to be physically not as imposing as Chavez Jr., and they feel like Chavez Jr., in this case, will be the stronger man. And we'll see if that is so. Reyes has fought good opposition, not great opposition. You can argue the case that Chavez Jr. is the best fighter he has fought so far in his career. What I do expect in this fight is action. And the reason I expect action is almost always when Chavez Jr. gets in the ring, there is plenty of action. In this one, it's especially true because there is, for Chavez Jr., the pressure for him to produce not just a win, but a dramatic win is very big. He himself has talked about it. This is truly a crossroads fight for him. For Marcos Reyes, this is an opportunity that is huge. And so his motivation will be that he has a chance, if he can knock off Chavez Jr., to make a name for himself in the sport of boxing. I'm normally not given to this kind of hyperbole, but this could be one of Chavez Jr.'s last chance to really convince boxing fans and those in the sport of boxing that he belongs in the upper echelon of the 168-pound division, let's say, or 175, whatever it is he eats himself into. We never know with him what division he'll land at. We know he's not going to be a 160-pounder, that's for sure. And so this fight is enormous significance for Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Now, I will be on the call on the broadcast on Showtime this Saturday evening, starting at 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific. And you'll get a chance to see just how Chavez Jr. fares against Marcos Reyes. There is no question at all that this fight is now the most important of Chavez Jr.'s career, not just because it's the most recent, but because his back is against the wall, I think, in terms of where he goes in the sport of boxing. We'll all find out the answer to how it all plays out on Saturday night in El Paso, Texas.